In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the editing tools inside of Canvas Studio. To get started, on the left-hand side, we're going to click on the Studio icon here. And for this demonstration, I'm just going to grab a quick screen cap of a video that I've already put inside of Studio, just to save us some time. So I'm going to go to Screen Cap here. And if you've never installed or used Canvas Studio, it'll prompt you to do so. For me, since I have, I'm just going to go ahead and open it. There we are. Now that's up and running, I'm just going to go ahead and hit record here. I'm going to open up this video and just use it as the background so you can kind of see some of the tools in the screen recorder. So while this is capturing the video, a couple things I want to point out about these tools. There's a lot of them, and they're all really useful, and depending on the use case, some of them will be more useful than others. So for this example, I'm just going to kind of show you some of the tools that I use regularly when I'm using the Canvas Studio. So I think that should hopefully be enough video. I'm going to go ahead and pause our video, and I'll pause our recording. So at this point, you're probably familiar with Canvas Studio and pausing and recording our videos. So we've got our video down here. We can play it to preview it. You could go back and record specific sections if they were kind of wrong. But for our purposes, we're going to click Done, just as if we had finished our screen recording. And then before we go ahead and give a title and description, we're going to click Edit here in the Edit panel. And this is going to open up a new window for us, and this is going to allow us to edit our video. So I'm going to make this a little bigger for us here. And now things to note about the interface. The centerpiece here is your main video that you just recorded. If you click on it, you can make adjustments to the main video. So you can zoom in and out. You can resize it. You can crop the corners of your video if you decide you don't really want a whole video. However, one thing to note, if you crop it, it will kind of screw up the aspect ratio. So this piece here is just going to be a black bar. So my suggestion is don't crop it unless you really need to. Last but not least, there's some stylization over here. So if you did crop your video, and let's say maybe you wanted to have a nice background, what you can do is make sure we got it cropped here. We'll go into Style and include our drop shadow, nice and fuzzy, and say Done. And then on the top right here, there's this little dot. And you can change the background color of your video that way. So kind of a cool option, something there for you to think about. For this example, we're going to just go ahead and reset everything to its original shape. And I'm going to click OK down here at the bottom to apply my changes. So then moving on, down here at the bottom, a couple things to note. This is what in video production we call a timeline. So on the left-hand side, you've got the 0 time code, and on the far right is the end of your video. And then anywhere inside of this timeline is the different sections of your video. So as you can see, as I click around, the little white line here is actually called a playhead in video production. So you can click your playhead around, and as you see on the bottom, the time code is displayed for what point in your video that you're at. You can play the video using this button over here on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, there's a cool feature called the magnifying glass. If you click on it, it's going to pop up the interface here, and these little squares will allow you to zoom in where your playhead is at, so you can kind of see what's going on in very specific parts of your video. So if you want to add a couple fine tunings to maybe a transition or a part of your video, this is a great tool to know about because it can be a little hard when you're fully zoomed out in this mode. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the tools inside of Canvas. Down here at the bottom, you can already probably see it's got tools located here. So I'm just going to click on the 7-second mark and click on Tools. One thing to note here, the first one anyways, is Cut. If I click on Cut, it's going to change the playhead to red. Then you can click and drag. And then anything inside of this space, it will actually cut out. So maybe the beginning of this video here, let's go ahead, I'll drag all the way over here. Maybe the beginning of my video needs to be removed because there's no audio and I just want it to start here. So what you can do is make sure that little red is selected and click OK. Additionally, something I want to point out is if you don't like clicking and dragging, you can just click in the timeline, and you notice this little arrow here. If you click on it, it will increase or decrease. And so I'll push the arrow the other way. If I click here, push this arrow that way. So it can increase and decrease your cut. And then to apply the cut, you're just going to click OK. I'm going to cancel this for now. We're going to pick another spot in my timeline and go into Tools. You can use the copy option, and if I click on it, Again, it's going to change my cursor here. So I could copy this section of the video and paste it into another part. So maybe this piece here where this woman is talking, I want to have that again later in my video. All I would really need to do is go ahead and copy it and then click OK. So we're going to cancel that and move into some other tools here. Hide will allow you to hide your cursor and webcam in different sections of the video. However, if you just want to hide it for the entire video, you can turn that on and off in this top right panel. And then again, while we're up here, you can also make adjustments to your audio. So if you only want the narration and not computer audio, you can make those adjustments there. You can also import and export audio files from this space here as well. And of course, the music feature here, you just click on music, and then you can find music from your computer and upload it into Canvas Studio. So now, back down to the tools. You have insert options and some other cool features here. You can come back and narrate over some of the video that you've created already. So maybe if you needed to change a piece of narration, you can do that as well. And under insert, you can do a new recording. So if you found that maybe your example was incorrect, you could go back and re-record over top of that piece by using new recording. Now, these are the tools that I use the most as a teacher, and I think these are the most useful tools. So under overlay, you've got blur and image. You can insert an image to go over top of your video. You can insert a blur, and that's the one we're going to use now. So you can see when I click on blur, it's going to give me this little box, and I can actually move this around on screen by clicking and dragging, and the blur will stay in that section for this amount of time down here on the bottom. So again, if I want it to be longer or shorter, I just click and drag the handles on the ends of the blur. And you can also fade the blur in and fade it out, so it'll look a little bit nicer. So the example here, I might want to blur out her name, and you can change the opacity on that blur too, so if you really want it blurred out, you can do that as well. Clicking play will let you preview it. I like that her name was there for only a second. So previewing it is a really useful tool as well, because sometimes you might want to make sure that you don't miss the very beginning or the very end of some important information. That's one thing that I always run into with my blurs. So it's always good to just blur a little bit extra at the beginning and the end of a section you might want to blur, so you make sure you get the whole piece. So I'm going to click cancel for blur. We're going to go back into tools and back into overlay. The outlines are also very cool. So you can add a little outline. Maybe you want to outline this person's name. And then again, you've got transitioning here. So in and out, you can fade it in and out. You can also layer these tools as well. So maybe you have a couple different boxes, but the yellow box here you want to have a little bit behind a red box. You can layer them in this tab. You can see the main video and cursor are available here. So clicking and dragging, you can see now the overlay is not showing because it's behind the video because it's on the bottom. But if I drag it up, it will appear again. So if you had several different layers here, you can move them around on screen. So I'm going to click cancel for those overlays. We're going to the next tool. So we talked about blur and we talked about outline. So the last couple pieces here, the last 2 or 3 that I think are good, you've got arrows, and there's lots of different arrows here. So if you click on style, you can change the color, thickness, and again, the drop shadow around the arrow. But a big benefit to this as well is dragging and moving these arrows, you can actually resize them this way, which is kind of neat as well. And back to tools, and then back into overlay. Now these are the 2 that I think are really useful. The text, you can add extra text afterwards, so maybe you want to give some notes to students, but the highlight is really great because the highlight will allow you to gray out most of the video and just let the students focus on that one specific section. So if you really want to add emphasis to a piece here, you can do that, and you can add a zoom to it as well. So very cool. Let's go ahead and preview this. You can see how that would add emphasis to her name over there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. We're going to go down to tools. And the last little piece here, this was the overlay section, but then continuing on down into the other pieces, speed up and speed down is neat. Transitions and volume are the last 2 I really want to kind of discuss with you. Transitions are fun because you can add a little bit of extra flair to your video. And there's tons of them. So if you click on the type here, you can change all sorts of transitions. We can do a star transition, and some of them will actually let you change the direction. I think we might need to find one here. Here's a wipe. So you can notice here the direction arrow changed, so you could have it go up or down, left or right. Let's go ahead and preview this here. That's kind of a rough example. Let's go ahead and I'm going to give you another example here. Let's find, I think this one will be good right here. So let's go Tools. We're going to go to Transition. Let's try Shuffle. I've never tried Shuffle. And we're going to click Play. It might be a little hard to see there based on my recording, but if I click and drag over top, you should hopefully see some of those pieces kind of fly down from the top over into the video there. So a little transition there that's kind of fun. And you can add those anywhere in your video. You can add them at the beginning and the end to kind of introduce and tell the students that the video is ending. So some cool video production pieces in there as well. So last but not least, we're going to talk about volume. We're going to go into the volume section here. And again, clicking and dragging over those sections of volume and, to make your box bigger or smaller. Now, once you have your box over the volume that you've got, to change the volume, you're just going to click on this little icon here, and you can raise and lower the volume. And what you're looking at here is actually the graphic representation of audio, which they call a waveform. So you can move your waveform up and down, which is going to increase and decrease the volume for the specific spot. And you can also mute just specific areas. So maybe this beginning part you don't want, you can mute and unmute that area there as well. And clicking OK will apply to that section there. Once you're finished with all your edits, all you need to do is simply click Done, and it'll take you back to this screen where you can begin adding a title and description and uploading your video into Canvas Studio. I hope this video was helpful. We've covered a whole bunch. There's a lot of really good tutorials on the Screencast-O-Matic website. Just simply Google search Screencast-O-Matic tutorials, and it'll go through each of these tools more in depth if you need a little bit extra information. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.